Jenna, Zoom's not an option in this room?
Not here.
Are you in the
can
town hall
restart.
conference room?
Yes.
It's not on the menu.
Yeah, it's an option. So,
Not on the menu.
He's gonna restart it.
Can't launch it if it's not on the menu.
who is someone from IT with you?
Yeah, Kevin's here. Kevin Connors.
Okay. Yeah,
See,
there's
it'll
no
work.
option on the TV to go to the input Zoom. And then on the
Yeah, we put that
keypad,
on.
then the keypad on the table, you have to join the actual meeting with the meeting ID and the passcode. And then it populates on the screen after you do that.
Yeah, we didn't have that option.
So did you type in the pass the
Yep, he's
meeting
doing it.
ID and the password on the pad?
He's doing it now.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
You already logged in there.
All right. I see you guys.
Yeah,
Hold on, I'm adding you to the meeting.
that was painful.
And then you just put yourself on video when you're ready. And then I think you might have to mute yourself, Ryan, because it'll echo.
When there's cutting.
Can you hear us all right?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and then can you click the video so we can see you in the room? Oh,
Same
I do
guys.
concepts
all right, cool.
and management.
Okay, so I should have the ability to control the presentation, correct?
No, that was.
Yeah, if you share it from your laptop, certainly,
we
yep.
talked about that also. There was two sections on either side of the stream that had grown around one dead tree, one tree that was alive. I think it was planted there for some reason. It's a memorial. And they wanted to clear that out. But yeah, I mean, they weren't taking it down, but they wanted to cut at least enough in there. One,
Yeah, that was.
it's Nelson, right?
Yeah.
I talked to you about something.
I'm great. Yeah, no, it was tough. How are you? Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I come back and I won't go that far anymore. I do, I'll be 30.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
Yours. Yeah. Where's Anthony? Maybe.
Recording in progress.
Not too much, keep him busy,
That's like-
doing pretty well.
Kids learning to swim on the way to school.
Yeah, all right. It is a mess.
Don't you have one?
So
Where's
I went back on
Anthony's
it
here?
yesterday, it was so icy.
Yes, ninth grade.
He's
a bicycle. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So they're both my kids.
I need to back out.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why they don't put any salt on the sidewalks. It's all
They
roads.
upset you must have.
She did give me.
Yeah.
I got to keep it. I gave one outdoor trails committee and I have one.
Yeah, and then,
So,
your
and
oldest
so
is
we
Thomas.
actually just made up
That's his
something
education.
to go in there. And it just
So
simply.
you know where I live?
Yeah, into his own apartment.
You know where I live?
Yeah, I used to work there.
I think they might have pointed it out.
So I know that whole thing afterwards.
Graduated.
Yes, yeah, they have that whole.
One on the corner.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
He's got a job.
This one?
The stone wall.
Yeah,
So we want to put that sign. in.
That one, it's Aaron.
That'll make you-
This one's me.
Yeah, people have been taking their.
Are we all set?
They run into our.
All right, we're gonna get started. We don't want
Yeah,
that crap. All right, thanks
for coming. My name is Jim Sullivan. I'm the Recreation Administrator for the town. I've been here going up on 2 years in May. I think I was around when I first started here in 2007 when Birch Meadow Master Plan was developed. The select board started an ad hoc committee that started in 2007. There's been a lot of alterations and changes. We did complete phase 1 last year, and we are on to phase 2, which is focusing on the basketball court / pickleball court. That was a former volleyball court, as well as a tot lot playground, as well as some additional parking. We have Ryan Percival here. He is the town engineer. We have Steve Crisafulli from Activitas. He is a design landscape architect. Is that correct? And he's going to be going through a short presentation. I'm gonna have him go through the entire presentation first before we do questions, just so we can kind of flow nicely. But after he's done with the presentation, letting you know where we are, we'll open it up to everyone for some questions or concerns you might have. And hopefully we have the answers. And if we do not have the answers today, we will find those answers and we'll get back to you. If you are here, we do have a sign-in sheet here. What I'm gonna do with this too, if you want updates on anything, put your email here. We do have a growing list of folks that were at some of the earlier meetings we've had since we've got to this point. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you for having us here tonight. Kind of run through phase 2. So Jim did intro. We'll go over kind of some rough existing conditions, information, the site plan, and the process of that. Quick look at some playground equipment. Open it up to questions. So obviously you guys know, being in the neighborhood, the site, there's a small portion for the Rise playground that's included, which is just resurfacing.
What has changed from last time we saw this?
Hold on one second.
Let's let him do it.
Just make some notes.
I'm
for a
just
second.
curious, like,
Make notes for questions at the end.
Next slide. Again, just some existing conditions. I guess you can just run through this. Next one. The existing playground, that's rubber.
Tire mulch,
Yeah.
rubber mulch, tire, recycle.
That's us.
That's us. We
For the
did
record.
that 20 years ago.
So to kind of just back up to where we've gotten the, we started the master plan. I know the town had started one in 07, 08, something like that. And then we did an update in 2019, I believe. Go to the next slide. Which included a bunch of community outreach, surveys, multiple design options that funneled through the town and stakeholder groups. Gave us the results of kind of priority desires of the community, what they wanted. Next slide. Which then categorized into kind of your phase 1 critical, next phase sustainable. So to date, the track and field have been redone, the Imagination Station parking lot, and then the connection path and the pavilion. So phase 2, that was the original kind of concept from back in 2019, 2020. And realistically, aside from the pickleball courts moving across town, the design hasn't changed much. So an early iteration, we're keeping 2 basketball courts, proposing that as post-tension concrete. We were originally looking at redoing the parking lot and potentially gaining about 9 spaces. Playground with a walkway going through. After a few meetings with the town, we weeded out some more comments and concerns. The parking lot, if you want to go to the next one, made sense to hold off on that just due to the cost and what you were gaining. And then we closed off the playground entirely with fencing for more security. And adding in a few head-in spaces on Bancroft.
It's head-in spaces.
The on-street parking.
Similar to what's there.
So is the playground staying where it is or?
Generally,
So you're gonna have.
My
cars
question
right
now.
now.
But I keep on, sorry.
so
There's
it's,
too many cars down there as it is.
this,
Talk about.
the scope is really redoing the playground, proposing sort of place surfacing, the new post-tension courts, with lighting and some pathway lighting on the new pathway connections. Benches, other minor furnishings, and we'll be including wayfinding signage and probably some educational signage, which we have done before. The playground equipment, we have gone through a number of different options. There's a lot of equipment companies and styles. We kind of funneled down to this more natural looking. It is wood, it is real, but it is more durable. It's Robinia. It does last, it doesn't splinter. And then alternatively, kind of more off the shelf. I'm gonna go to the next one. Standard, we'll call it, steel and plastic. No questions. And that's pretty much the quick overview, just an update on where we are right now. We're gonna be permitting in the next month or so. Wrapping up final drawings and hoping to get this out to bid in June with construction starting hopefully in July.
So when you say the playground's gonna be more or less in the same spot, can you explain that?
If you go back, I don't know if you can see it.
Looks like a circle too. Circle?
Yeah. It's actually,
An oval.
You want me to go to?
actually go to the, yeah.
The construction drawing?
Yep.
That's the existing conditions.
Yep. Yep.
It's overlaid.
That's what the existing is, and actually the square footage is almost identical.
So it's just replacing what's there and then what are they doing with the two courts, keeping those two and just redoing them or?
Yeah, they get, it's a small increase because the pickleball court wasn't big enough for full-size basketball, but generally in the same spot, we're holding the same edge. And just adding the lights.
Oh, there'll be lights too? And then where are the new parking spots going?
Basically in front of, I wish I had a pointer.
Right.
So that is a concern. I mean, so kids already, I mean, I have two little ones, and I've seen other little kids, they already just take off of the street as it is. And the street already feels very close to the playground. So now you're bringing more cars closer to.
It is, I mean, part of it is to provide closer accessible parking and.
But they're.
Which-
So I understand, I love all this, like I have no problem with any of it. I am so thankful that all this stuff has been put in place, but I literally live across the street. When I wash my dishes every day for probably like 2 hours a day, I can see out my window how many cars do not even stop at the new stop signs and drive straight over. So a way that we're not going to be able to fix it is if there's already too many cars, we can't add more spaces for cars. Like it's, I know there's a traffic problem, but there really, I mean, I have parking problem, but there really isn't. We have tons of parking over at the Pack, over next to Rise, over next to the field house. It's like literally a 300-foot walk over. So we don't have a parking problem. We have a car problem. And we're not gonna fix it with adding more cars. And the police do not come by. Like they literally, this is how people drive down the street, Bancroft. And there's a stop sign right there and they don't stop. And I literally got like guard kids' lives Like I do, like when I'm out there, I'm like, watch out, because it's, something's bad's going to happen.
We did ask Reading Police to be here, but both their officers were tied up.
They don't listen anyways.
But it's more than just having a policeman too, I mean, and everything about design, and I don't know what the overlap with the traffic design is, but you know, speed bumps, some traffic calming stuff. You know, blocking off more parking spots, you know, having a couple accessible ones and then, you know, more grass area. Cause you know, I could hear what it's amplifying the problem, there's too many cars, you're adding more cars, you're bringing the cars closer to the kids. And less barriers in a sense, right? 'Cause, you know, what I see is that little walkway that's there now, you know, kids just.
Right.
And the cars are coming down the hill and, you know.
I honestly think it should be a one-way street.
They already run like from the, where the tennis courts are now to go to the park on that grass area, you know, so if there is people parking here, there's still kids that are gonna park down there because these spots are taken, that are gonna run in front of cars, they're not gonna see it, people don't stop. Not only that, but I'm legit right across the street, where cars are already parked on my grass as it is. Like on the way that it says, don't park there because people don't care. And they're gonna be, people backed in, it's gonna be a cluster of people trying to park there for the baseball game on this
Yeah.
way and then put in and put out, it's dumb.
Baseball game, tennis, it's a disaster down there, disaster. And even if, I mean, like, okay, if it was a good idea and we were gonna say, okay, let's add some spaces, how many spaces are you talking? Like 6, 8?
With one.
I mean, it's not gonna do
That's-
any good for the
No.
parking situation,
No.
it's gonna make it worse.
It's not, and it's dangerous.
And there is a 3-way stop there, so people are gonna be like
Finally.
pulling in, pulling out, stopping, it's not gonna work. Like, we literally, I've lived there for 25 years.
Same. I mean, watch it
Since
happen every
2000,
day.
I've lived there and I've watched it every day.
Yeah.
When my kids cross the street,
Yeah.
it still, one of them is 20, one of them is 15, I still watch out the window because people do not stop.
Some
Because they're
do, but
used to it,
not
'cause we
everyone.
finally got the stop signs after
Yeah,
20
and
years.
they're not used to them.
Making progress.
It
We're
is.
still
it's
gonna
The
have
progress.
stop signs, I'll be thankful, I'm thankful for the
We
stop signs
are.
finally.
I'm thankful for all of this, it's
So,
this.
I've just moved to
spaces.
Reading 5 years ago, but I love the Bancroft tennis courts and I go there all the time in the evening. I'm intrigued that the basketball courts are not gonna get lights. Are they gonna be lighted on the same schedule as the tennis courts lights?
That's something we talked about earlier today. There's a difference, I think, of hitting a tennis ball and bouncing a basketball later at night when kids are sleeping and there are butters next to there. So that's something we bring to our recreation committee, and maybe those lights are going off at a earlier time opposed to 10 o'clock. It could be a 9 o'clock or an 8 o'clock, but that would be a policy that would have to come through the rec committee. But
Well, one thing to consider, because we were there a lot in the evenings. The tennis court lights are fantastic, but it also attracts, in the summertime, a lot of kids congregating in that area, you know, doing whatever kids shenanigans are.
They do that.
And it gets a little unruly sometimes. They congregate around the current basketball courts because there's some proximity lights, but if it's gonna be fully lighted, they're gonna be even more activity. That,
Don't worry, we
Less
live across the
mischievous.
street.
Yeah.
We live out, we're on
Have
that.
you seen me chasing people down there,
Yeah.
telling them, you didn't stop at the stop sign, I
So
literally
there
say
are
that.
plenty of
We're on that.
respectable users.
Yeah,
And then there's a
There
lot
are.
of other
I agree.
stuff going on. I
those
mean,
lights haven't been turned on in years, so kids are certainly gonna go over there and it's a
Yeah.
little more coverage. If those lights are on and those courts are new, we're
Yeah.
gonna see more folks, whether it's kids playing basketball, adults playing basketball.
might be
as
good,
well, and
yeah.
No, it'll be
almost
good.
hopefully police itself.
I don't mind.
I mean, is there some sort of, I don't know, like way that if all this stuff when all this stuff happens, like, can police come by every hour, every half, like, what is the deal? Like, we do not get any monitoring unless we call, and then we look like big Karens when we call, and it's just a cycle.
Yeah, and Dave has
It's a
given us
cycle.
a nice list of things as well, and like I said, I did invite Reading PD today, so I'm gonna follow up with the questions that he gave, but if you have questions as well, I know last year I did speak with them at the initial spring season with high school starting, and they came down, I think it was the first game, I was actually at the game, they came down and they got on their loud horn.
Yeah, they
They
do that
and people
maybe
did move it,
twice a season, yeah.
We can speak with
And again, I don't have a problem with anything except the parking. Other than that, I think it's great. The thing about the playground though, the wooden structure, right? So it's real wood, you said? Didn't we have a problem with the, how are we gonna maintain it with like the imagination station and it got all nasty and it got falling apart and, you said it has a longevity life, but there's also.
Different kind
Yeah,
of wood,
it's completely different.
like plastic wood or something.
And then the
No,
port,
it's-
and then the port surface, how is the town gonna maintain that? Because it's very expensive to fix Because when we did the whole thing, and because Aaron and I are the ones that did the first tot lot back in 05,
We went
07.
and sold the bricks and we made the top.
You know, we were told we can't do the poured rubber because, you know, well, it was expensive, but we fundraised for everything. But because of, I mean, it's what, 20 years ago, so I'm sure it's made better, but like, just right now, I mean, the town doesn't really maintain the rubber that falls outside, so thankfully we won't have that issue.
We are though now. Jim is getting rid of all the rubber, and we're gonna bring in some wood mulch over the next.
Well, no,
few
that's
years.
fine,
Oh,
no,
that's good.
that's fine, but I'm just saying, like, the maintenance of,
So you can set up
that.
contracts with these companies as well too, but we do have funding in our,
no, that's good.
we get $100,000 for park
Right.
improvements that can be used for
Okay.
playgrounds.
I just
fields.
wanted to
So
make sure, because I
If it's
know it
putting
is
aside
expensive.
10,000 to
that
deal
stuff.
with patches, and what they do, they'll
Right.
come out there, they'll cut out the edge and they'll
It's so much
patch it
better than it
as
was.
well too, and the big component of this playground is making it accessible. We go to wood chips, we go to any kind of rubber mulch.
That's good.
Nobody in a wheelchair
Right,
is
right,
getting in there,
right.
anyone
No,
on
that
a
makes
walker or
sense.
has trouble walking, they're
Yeah.
not gonna be on a level surface, so that's the reason we're going to the form play, and it's
No,
almost
that's
become
good
a
though.
standard across the industry as well.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure also that there's more swings, because when that structure was taken out, it is
Gotcha.
the tot lot, and you know, there's
I
only.
want a minimum 6.
I mean,
Minimum
So many
6.
people use it.
Yeah, the
You know,
swings are the most popular.
Well, I see kids fall off the swing all the time.
Steve wanted I changed his
Okay.
entire design plan a week ago because I said we
Swings.
need more swings,
Yeah,
so it
which
takes
will
up
be
more
good.
space, but they are utilized.
Yeah.
the
No,
most.
it'll be nice.
You didn't have it zoomed in, what did you?
But can we go
No,
back
that
to
was
what
a
you
different
said
one.
about, I did ask about, when we got the stop signs and the crosswalks, I did ask about speed bumps.
Mhm.
And they said, you know, I mean, I get it, we like, look at it outside right now, they plow and it messes everything up. But at Rise, my kids went to Rise and they had the ones you could remove.
Portable ones. that
Yeah,
come in
I
the
don't know if
winter.
you can do that,
I mean-
especially in March through July or June or whatever.
Ryan's on the-
Yeah, speed bumps are problematic for a multitude of reasons. When we talk about speed bumps, we're talking about the smaller ones, like the 1 foot wide
The ones
ones,
that
right? What are you
rise.
talking about?
Yeah, they put them behind Market Basket. and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
for plowing purposes, for bicyclists, for, you know, motorcycles, things like that, they are very problematic. They're not really required, they're not recommended in roadways. This is a public roadway, we wouldn't put them in. The other things that you can look at though are speed humps, which are a little bit bigger
Yeah.
and they're.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah,
I like how they have.
So,
it like a-
You know, one thing to incorporate with that would be, you know, potentially doing a crossing at the corner with that hump in there.
Yeah,
That would,
And that would really help.
that drives, you know, there's a big driver to that cost. I mean, handicap ramps in particular are expensive when when we look at that. Let me go back.
Well, I've even seen some of those, not to interrupt you, but they have like embedded flashing lights too.
We don't need that. That is my son's room.
Hey, Ryan,
I go in
Yes.
and I'm not getting.
sorry to interrupt. There is a question in the chat and I just want to be cognizant of that. There will be trees added to provide shade at the new park. It is
Yes,
currently
that's-
virtually unusable in the summer currently because of the lack of shade.
True.
Yes, there will be trees that are added as part of this project to increase public shade.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Oh.
To go back to the question
Yeah.
for the speed humps and raised crosswalks. There's an ability to potentially get those in. They're very costly, would add a lot of cost to this project. We had the ability to have the crosswalks in where they are now. They're safe, they're compliant, there's a 3-way stop sign in there. So, and when we value engineer those out, that's the reason. If we go to putting a crosswalk at your corner, we're adding four ramps because you trigger the replacement.
Mhm.
So you put one in there, you put a new one in there, you put a new one across the street. Plus, there's not a sidewalk on your side of the
Right.
street.
That would get closer to Shannon's. It'd come
That's
in
correct.
her grass. There's a-
Certainly something we can look at again.
I mean, this is the safety of the children in our town, so I don't know what the cost on that is, but. You know, if something happens to someone down there, the more busy it gets and people look back at this meeting and we're advocating for them and it's too expensive.
Well, you know, there are regulatory streets, you know, stop
Yeah.
signs down there.
Yeah.
And if people are blowing through the stop
Blowing
signs,
through.
that's, you
We
know,
have like 16, 17-year-old drivers, mothers on their cell phones, like they just drive 30 miles an hour around the corner.
you know,
Or some other traffic calming devices, you know, extended curbs, and there's other things that they can do.
there are. there are certainly things that you can do to bump out the protected areas. This is a narrow area to begin with on that road, Bancroft going down, so you're very limited on what you can do for pedestrian bump outs.
And even pedestrian barriers, like, I think of one of the rail trails, I think in Topsfield or somewhere, almost has like a little zigzag fence where you kind of have to navigate through. So it's not a gate, but to block off, kids are just racing out into the street, like something that can.
So that was the point to the fence, that's the main reason why the playground area is fenced in, right? So we don't have the kids running back and forth and just running out of the playground area.
But
At some point, you are going to be outside of a fence, and
Yeah.
there is going to have to be,
yeah, But it-
rental supervision.
oh yeah, but
That's-
a slow down point right at the street, because kids on bikes, like they say, going from the playground to the tennis courts, I mean, yes, parental supervision, but you go with 2 or 3 kids, one kid takes off. Having a little bit of something right by that really dangerous corner, stop a kid from just, jumping right out into the street type of thing.
I would,
One would think 3 stop signs at the intersection would stop traffic.
one would think. So my question on your point is, where that entrance to the playground is now, are we moving it to make it a little bit safer? So that way, like you said, the kids come out and they jam across the street. So I mean, if they're gonna run, like have them run to the basketball courts or
Oh, yeah.
something.
Yeah, so this,
So that way it's,
We could remove.
there's
potential, but-
there's potentially 2 entrance. There's a larger one here for us to access, but there is a smaller gate, and then there's one down here. So nothing directly facing the street.
Yeah.
Everything to the side.
yeah.
Maybe off to the back by the
That's
fence
what I
line.
was thinking. I mean, you can have the 2, but just maybe one that's more usable than the other one,
Good
maybe
idea.
something like that, like I said, because, and everybody sees it now, who's been down there, the kids, they do run out, and then I always see the mother grab a hood because the kid's gonna run right across the street, whereas if they're like running out into like the tennis court basketball area, I mean,
Yeah.
it's, you have more time.
Yeah, we'll take a look at maybe this one down in this area.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
see.
it's worked for now, which is fine, but if we're gonna redo it, we might as well think of doing it another way.
What's that?
All the bricks we sold with the families'
We'll
names
take
on
them
them.
up. Don't give them to the people that bought them.
No, let's leave them
Those
there.
bricks need to be fixed. There's a lot of,
We've done that, we
Flooding,
just did
there's a
that
bunch
at
of-
Wood End, so that's something we take care of. Wood End had the same thing going on, we had a mason go out there, he saved all the
Yeah.
bricks he could save, and he even patched together some as well, so I mean, if that's a conversation we wanna have, I mean,
Some families spent
I don't
like
think it was
$200
a
on those
huge-
bricks, but
huge costs, so
Yeah.
I mean, we could certainly try to salvage if it's not gonna disrupt, I would recommend doing it after the entire project. We
yeah.
bring it in once the trucks are out of there, and then we have someone come in and look at that.
where are Little League and baseball players supposed to park?
So so I don't know if you wanna talk about the staging area, we didn't bring up the staging area for this project.
Can you see on this plan? What's on this plan, right? The
Staging.
staging?
Go up one.
Because when there's games and tennis players and.
It's gonna be,
Everybody's
I reached out to
dependent on-
Little League and they're willing to accommodate, there will be a fence that's gonna be put around there as well too, and we gotta make sure that we are gonna leave some opening areas so that they can get into their dugouts on both the first base and the third base side. There will be some parking in that lot, but it's not gonna be big, but again, I mean, there are a few nights where that field house parking lot is full, but there is a lot of space that's 100 yards on that, up by the Performing Arts Center as well too, so it's just educating Little League. It's educating the high school, I know we've tried, it's educating them with, make sure the buses that are bringing these baseball teams aren't going down there, because then it's beep beep and they're trying to back up.
Yeah, because on Google Maps, it was wrong on Google Maps. I don't know if someone fixed it, but it said it was like a through, you would go through.
Yeah.
And you can't.
So I know the high school sends out an email every game, whether it's the tennis team as well as the baseball team, do not go down there, but you get one bus driver
Yeah,
that
it
does
hasn't
it.
been bad in the past year.
I think
And they do have a
Google
signage there as
Maps,
well, it says buses, no buses
Yeah.
beyond this point as well.
Pointless.
Discretionary,
Yeah.
discretionary
It's a
sign.
big pickup.
So are you saying that the laydown and mobilization area is gonna be
At the back,
at the parking lot that now supports the Little League?
just a portion of it.
And the traffic that will support that laydown area to bring in materials will be coming from,
The school.
so it won't be coming down Bancroft. won't be
Unless you
coming
want
down-
it, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, we had it all last year.
Last time we came down Hartram Street, Bancroft won't take the traffic, you already know that.
Mhm.
So,
The intent will be that everything, deliveries, that stuff's lay down, storage is in that back half of that parking lot during the summer period. And then there probably will, and I mean, just we'll be honest, there's probably gonna be some minor access with machinery, like a like backhoe or excavator that has to come in from the front side. But we're not talking deliveries or anything or something
It's
like
not
that.
gonna.
Yeah, we had everything from semis to.
Yeah, and, you know, there is a hill there, so, you know, when they go and dump material, the dump trucks are gonna have to probably come in off that Bancroft side. But as far as deliveries and things like that, everything mostly will be on that parking lot side.
Ryan
Yes,
and Jim, another question in the chat. If the parking spaces are definitely happening, can you at least make some of them playground parking only? There's plenty of baseball parking available in the high school lot and new parking lot. It would be nice to provide families with young children special spots near the park.
I mean, I'm just gonna chime in. I'm a town meeting member for 12 years now. I stood up at town meeting when this was brought to us and I spoke to whoever it was, I think Jenna maybe, I don't know. And she said, no, we're not putting parking between there. We're not putting it. So it's like, are you putting it or are you not putting it? Like, we just need to make that decision. I don't think we should, I think it's not going to be a good idea to add 8 spaces.
It is not required, correct, Ryan?
well, maybe not the full 8 spaces, but we potentially need to look at that as far as accessibility.
With the handicap.
Yes. So,
2 handicap spaces, sure.
yeah, we may be able to look at the parking and,
Two, because it
Yeah.
will still provide access for maintenance.
correct.
And then there'll be a cost saving that could potentially help us with.
Why don't we just not do it? I'm
Really,
really.
no, but they said for accessibility, which there are parking spaces already for accessibility, but they're
That's
way
okay.
down
So when you
by the
create,
field.
yeah, when you create a
So you need 2
facility, you
more.
wanna have
Yeah.
accessible parking as opposed to the facility that you're trying to.
Alright, I'll just rent out a space in my driveway.
Yeah. And I'm watching $5 a day.
You
So
can also do
I-
anything.
I'm not
like
sure
that.
we say no completely to the parking, but we look at the parking as far as maybe minimizing it and just condensing it down to maybe 2 handicap, like a van space that
Yeah.
have 2 handicaps, or potentially 3.
Yeah.
So someone,
So where are the cars gonna park? So if you add basketball courts, you're gonna add occupants to the facility, right?
Mhm.
Where are these cars gonna park? Where are the cars gonna go that we got rid of last year, the 16 cars that were on the resident side of Bancroft? They didn't have a home. We didn't have a plan for that.
They're gonna.
Those went to my neighborhood. They live in my house now.
Mhm.
Now you got a basketball court, you're gonna live in my house now. We already know we have a traffic problem. We already know we have a police force that doesn't have funding, doesn't have manpower to support a presence in this area. We know that's a problem, right? We have to solve that problem. So let me just say this about the project, right? I've lived a block from this facility for 35 years. 15 years ago, the basketball courts became so under-maintained that no one plays there. For at least 10 years, I've been putting proposals together to minimally improve that so that they could play, so we could have lights. That's not happening. So what tells me that we need to have 2 more basketball courts? We're not using what we have, we're not improving what we have. Why are we putting 2 new ones in there? And if we're gonna put 2 new ones in there, how are we gonna maintain them? There's gotta be a part of the budget, right? I don't see that.
So right now, what we're doing, we're getting these courts back to where they should have been. You're right, yeah, they
You're
weren't
right.
maintained. And I said to you, I think the first time that I met you, you gotta give me an opportunity. And again, I'm
I'm
asking
just saying,
to give me an opportunity to maintain these things like we've already done, where we've done Sturgis already, we've done ball fields.
I got a lot more, I got a lot
I know
more.
you do, I'm
years-
just.
I got a lot more years into this discussion than you do. And I'm telling you, for 15 years that haven't been used, they're not safe, right? They shouldn't be used.
That's why they're not used.
So that's what I have to say about the basketball court. Tell me about the top lot. What's the current age limit for the top lot? What's it designed on?
2 to 12 is what we're going for.
No,
Currently, it's
what
2
is
to
the
5.
current top? lot?
2 to 5.
2 to 5. So now we're gonna add older kids to the top lot.
Correct.
That's acceptable.
I mean, I like that, honestly.
It's acceptable, sure, if you have a young family that can grow within a playground.
I'm just saying.
So it is
Changing it,
acceptable,
It's not
so-
no longer a tot lot.
Yep, so it's
It's
not.
a
It's more of a,
playground.
adolescent, like, call it whatever you want, but we're changing the use of it. It's not growing in square footage, so the littler kids are gonna be kind of overwhelmed by the older kids. I'm just telling you, I live there, right? I'm telling you who uses the park.
Yeah, and
Like-
having young kids myself and using other playgrounds that go the same format as well too, it's set up so that the younger side is off to the other side and the older side is on this side. Yes, they can commingle. But as a parent, having an 8-year-old that I can bring a 2-year-old with, and they're not playing on a small little ladybug and they can go climb a rope swing, I think that adds a ton of value.
I could just add something here, so at ADA, Park, the.
This is Chuck Tyrone.
Yeah, sorry, Chuck Tyrone, Conservation Administrator. An ADA park will bring in older, needed, the kids are much older when they have disabilities. So there's that too. It's not just, mainstream kids. So that also might help you understand why the age has gone up a bit.
And as far as the parking, I know we started on the parking, where these parking, we gotta continue to educate the folks, and I know we gotta have a conversation with the police department, and we do have that follow up. If it's me and my van that's going down there, seeing these cars and trying to educate people, I have no issues doing it myself. Ed has no issues, we like to get out of the office every once in a while, but it's continuing to educate these people and yes, give out some tickets here and there as well.
Just a personal point. Until it becomes other than discretionary, and we start to issue some real citations or violations, nobody's gonna care. You can talk all you want, but nobody's gonna care until they have to pay. That's the bottom line. And if we don't have enough funding in the police department, we don't have enough manpower in the police department to support this, I can't see how we can push forward.
If we look at stalling.
It's just not gonna work. I can tell you for those of us that live there, right? That's a dangerous intersection. And not only do you need to improve the park, you need to improve the intersection. And that intersection needs to include some curbing, right? It needs to include some crosswalks.
Yeah.
Right? It needs to support the community that it lives in.
A signage that says parking for a tot lot up at the like, it's literally, it doesn't look like it because you have to drive around, but it's literally not even 300, it's like walking, I don't know, 200 feet, 100 feet.
And we're gonna have a signage program, that ties-
Signage would be really good.
Yeah, that's part of this plan,
Yeah.
to take care of the entire area, the bathrooms as well too, and the trails where they lead to.
Wayfinding
all
signs.
fields,
Yeah,
wayfinding signs that will
parking,
all be, together. Nelson's got a question.
I heard a mention about cameras. Can the town put in a camera to protect the investment in this area and also enable Reading Police to do a quick check? Like if there's, unscrupulous activity going on.
We put up
they can-
cameras at the pavilion this year and we have utilized those on a number of occasions. We had an instance where someone decided to drive on the ball fields on Morton Field.
Okay. I think that would help a long way to tell the public, there are cameras monitoring the tennis courts, the basketball courts, the tot lots. If there are cameras made clear, that might be a deterrent to bad behavior.
Surveillance.
Yeah,
areas.
Our
Geez, you
cameras,
can't-
us guys.
Just for Nelson, to that point, I don't wanna speak for RPD, cause I don't believe we can surveil. We have the means to do that. They're used for if something does happen.
Mhm.
Maybe for like
Yeah, we can- We
investigation purposes.
can,
Yeah.
follow up. If something happened, they could.
But we can reach out to them and ask that question and make sure.
Right.
But again, signage cameras in use.
Yeah. One point I wanted to bring up is kind of quality of design and maintenance. So thinking about phase one and that path. That we spent millions of dollars on to replace the path that was already there, the new path that's underwater and under ice and no drainage and you can't even walk on and they don't plow well. And that's where we're gonna go down that boondoggle again of $1 million path that's useless.
And I think with this, we finally, I guess, had a decent amount of snow and we found out something yesterday, that the drainage on the roof was getting clogged. So Ryan and I looked at that and we're gonna talk about a solution. So you can do your best to plan a project until something comes in where there's ice blocking drainage as well too, or pathways people are making their own pathways right now too. So it's a conversation with facilities. Right now, facilities, and the school department does take care of I think they get the main artery that runs by the Little League field and they try to run it all the way up to the Lighty softball field as well, but the one that's coming off Bancroft is,
But
it's not plowed.
But the new main path, right now, there's an inch of ice.
Yeah.
And it was,
And
we were talking
water.
about design, it was poor design, it's below grade, there's no crest on it.
Mhm.
It's a wet area and there's no drains put in.
It's never been a dry
There-
area.
Yeah,
It's
that,
been wet since.
that area in particular,
All fields.
it's very, very wet area. It was very problematic. We did just do a recent survey over there with that, the area that is behind the pavilion. And we have means to put in another catch basin, do a direct tie into an additional catch basin that's already there. And that should take care of that issue.
Yeah.
We do have landscaping, we added landscaping, catch basins and things like that on the sides. With this ice and rain that came through, everywhere is frozen and flooded areas.
But if they crested the path
There is a,
and
there is,
elevated it a
there is,
little more.
there is a crown to that. They don't salt these areas.
Right, I mean, they should, and that's the maintenance piece.
This is an area of the town that's not an area that we would salt.
Why?
We do have some sensitive areas that are over there and we're mindful of them. Resource area, this dumps in directly into a resource area into we also have Castine Field over there that's. If that receives any salt, then you're not gonna have any freezing in the ponds and.
But they salt the road right next, I mean, they don't salt the sidewalk by Castine either. But not to get too far off topic, they're encouraging people to walk their kids to school. I walk my kids to school every day. The streets are clear, they're plowed, they're salted, the sidewalk 2 feet across. They plow and leave an inch of ice, they don't salt,
We do not salt sidewalks.
but why? I mean, if you encourage people to
We do
walk,
not have the funds or the capability to salt every sidewalk in town.
So if you see I saw our sidewalk outside my door, so it's the people that live in the houses.
Are you coming off of Bancroft when you walk your child to school? Are you coming down Bancroft and going by that chain little entrance next to Morton Field?
so both, so usually, you either come down like Birch Meadow Drive, like that way by Castine, or, ideally, I like to walk by the fields and through that little walking path, but it's not usable. But I mean, I get that you can't do every single sidewalk, but the ones that the town plows, put a sand spreader behind the plow like you do with the plow trucks. I mean, if you want to encourage walkability and there's not a lot of parking around the schools, don't make parents and little
So,
kids walking
I
in
mean,
elementary school.
That is coming up at a town meeting for discussion for sanding and salting your sidewalks in front of your home as a bylaw.
Well, yeah, I mean, that I think is good, but
So-
I think the walking paths through like the Birch Meadow complex, I think is more what
We
you're
can-
saying
we
is
can-
those.
I mean, it's like I said, it's something new and like. When you
That's what
start
you're
with a
saying.
project or whatever, it's always like, this is more, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do this, then it becomes a problem the following year, this has happened, then it kind of moves up the kind of tiers of like, we need to take care of that, like. Just because it's not being done right now, by no means doesn't mean that next year it's gonna get taken care of, it's becoming an issue.
Yeah.
It's been brought up at this meeting,
Yeah.
it's brought up to the select board as well, and we figured out a way to do it.
And I guess my point bringing it up now is, even when they put the new walk path in, I think the first week it was already flooded. I could see it spend millions of dollars on this.
100%.
Yeah, and a lot, again, we've identified the area that, we know the area that floods, we've identified an area and have a connection that DPW is gonna be able to make that connection to another catch basin to alleviate that. It doesn't flood with feet of water that it used to. But we can certainly address it again even further. To that point, to Jim's point, I mean, we just found out that we had a snow storage issue at Imagination Station, so now we have a different game plan on how to remove that. So we have a lot of sensitive areas that things, piles of snow can't go in, so now we're just gonna stockpile it and remove it as needed as part of the removal.
So can you show me on the plan where the new trees are gonna be and how we're gonna provide shading for this top lot?
Landscape plan, is that it?
Maybe go to the rendering,
So all the trees that are there are
And the
going to be
circles?
removed, I
Is it
assume,
the
right?
circle?
not all of them.
All the new trees are certainly gonna be.
Yeah, those little circles with
Yeah,
those,
yeah. That's the cir- yeah.
Most of the grove that is kind of page north.
So what direction is south on this plan?
looking down.
So
This is a north
what
arrow.
I'm seeing, right, because I live there, is that in the summer, the sun's pattern is gonna be between those two big trees.
Yeah.
There is no shading there for
There's
that part.
trees, current existing trees, there's existing trees there that you can see in the background, those aren't getting removed. These ones that are, you see in the fine print, those are new trees.
I don't see any existing.
Little circles. Other circles, I
Are you talking right here, Dave? Like this area?
So,
Yeah.
so look, here's south. Here's the path of the sun in the summertime. That sun is directly on the park, which makes it unplayable for the kids that are in there. So the trees that need to be provided need to be here where this parking is. The trees that are currently there are fairly new, older trees, but still small.
But remember they used to be a really big tree that
That
they took
shaded
down,
the
that
whole thing.
shaded the whole park, right where
So-
that was.
So anyway, what I'm saying is, unless you can provide some shading in this southerly area, that's gonna be too hot.
So if we were to remove some
If we
parking,
remove some parking,
Everything
condense
shifts
that,
up.
we can,
I guess our point, that
Yeah.
we live there,
Remove that.
this parking is not gonna work
That was the
for
right
us.
answer.
Yeah.
I'm
There
fine
needs
with
to be
like.
another plan that
Yeah.
eliminates that parking, one for safety, right, one for shading for the park, right, and just for common sense, right?
And
8 spaces is way too many. I'm fine with like a handicap,
Yeah, that was
one or
really
two,
good.
and
So
then
again,
It was really good.
So again, maybe we take this, we look at it
Yeah.
as just an accessibility issue,
Yeah.
like concern.
that's fine.
You know, we move everything up to the larger pathway, so further away from the intersection. And then that provides more green space area for
Yes.
more trees.
trees or bushes that could act as. a
Or the
barrier,
existing
so
Or
kids-
the existing trees stay that are already there,
Like
so
where
that,
that
Yeah,
little
well,
benches now in
Yeah.
that area, if you use those and made those more space, added like 4 spaces there and a
Yeah.
handicap, that would be totally
so
fine,
maybe this becomes our access to access
right?
this area. All this gets taken away
Yeah.
and we maintain or add.
Green
And we put a
space.
nice speed hump and we're good. We all agree.
We maybe, that's I have that jotted down,
Okay.
we'll take a look at that.
But yeah,
I
no.
think that the single biggest thing here, right, is we need some support from the police department. Right, that's the biggest thing we have here. We have discretionary enforcement of signs and, right, the laws that we live by at that corner and they're not being enforced. I understand the police department does not have funding, does not have adequate manpower in order to do that. And I understand there's a priority system. But our priority when we live there is that park and the safety of the kids that use that park and the people that
Enjoy
use
them.
that park, right?
Is it a speeding issue? Is that where you're?
But
Little bit of
it's a
speeding.
parking issue, one, right?
Backing up, speeding,
It's
not
speeding, it's
stopping.
buses, it's,
not paying
I've called a
attention to what
million
they're
times.
doing.
Yeah, people don't pay.
I mean, and he has the youngest kids of all of us. He's got grandkids that he brings over there all the time. So he's not just saying, I watch from my porch. He literally has 2 grandkids
Now he's
that he
living it
brings,
again.
he's living it all over again.
Yeah,
so we need to do something about parking, we need to do something about enforcement. If we're gonna add more people to play basketball, I think basketball is great, right? I advocated for changing, fixing, providing something temporary to make this court go. I'm a basketball guy, right? I like basketball. Worked for me. Little kids park, hey, great for little kids, older kids, not so much, right? Not so much. But anyway, it takes parking places to support all those kids and all those people playing basketball. We didn't do anything about the 16 spaces we lost. All those people have moved to my street and park in front of my house now, so I'm not able to enjoy my home because I don't have a place to park anymore. I gotta show them, I get buses coming down the dead end in Hanscom. Right? It's just, you guys gotta work it out.
go back to the idea of shading for a second. I've seen playgrounds where they have like those sail kind of things almost to.
Oh, yeah.
Cause it does get hot and, you know, the little kid, I got 2 little kids and, you know, even with trees, you know, the slides get hot and, you know, sometimes even burning hot. You know, is there a way to put some of that kind of shading material over top?
Can always do something, there is a cost to it, and then it's just making sure that we are putting them up and taking them down every winter so they don't snow. I mean,
those systems require pretty significant footings for wind load.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
that's the problem.
Even if it's solar.
Unfortunately, that area where the playground is a bowl of spaghetti of utilities.
You know, that.
So everything-
parking lot.
And even if you even if you were to put those in, just beyond, I mean, they become a maintenance headache.
Washing the
The
leaves
leaves will
will get
They
in
can be
the-
UV treated all day long, but they're gonna, every year you're gonna have to replace them.
Yeah.
Just look at
They're
the
not
screens on.
And we will not be doing black porn play, it'll be a lighter color as well too, so that'll take away
Lighter
from a
greens
little
and
bit.
browns and things that are more natural.
Chuck, do we have any issues with the construction in this area?
Conservation.
Conservation?
Conservation, well, as you can see, this project is about halfway into the buffer zone, so there's a wetland. It's on Long Meadow Road,
Longfellow.
Longfellow Road.
Yeah.
Because we had that issue when we did the parking lot. the
Yeah,
park
We've
a while.
talked about it, we'd like to just look into some planting and some elimination of invasive species along the back part of the basketball court.
Yes, I have a friend who tried to do a addition on her house and she was given a lot of problems because she's on between Bancroft and Longfellow, right there where all that is. Blue spotted salamanders and stuff like that.
And even when we put the bricks in at the park, it was a hard time because
Yeah.
of that.
Did you
There's
get
also a lot of
did you get a permit?
infrastructure.
She
in
did,
that
but she had
area,
to
right?
change some things.
And extremely.
Drainage,
It's always,
diversions.
it's always a surprise. I mean, a lot of people don't
concern
understand
that we're going to have
when
problems
there's
with
an
that
additional
in,
permit.
No, not,
Yeah.
it's not under the, that's why
Yeah.
that's why this is aligned the way it is. We did an extensive survey out there
A couple times.
a few times, so we're well aware, I mean, that used to be a way back when.
Yeah.
So
It
there's,
still is.
there's a lot of old stuff that's underneath there that's, you know, Steve knows. You know, one thing to point out is that we were really cognizant of number one, I mean, we really have to be responsible for the amount of impervious area that we do have to put down. It's something that I'm concerned about, you know, Chuck
Yes.
is concerned about, and so is, you know, Activitas. And that's one of the reasons why the parking lot, there's a lot of parking out there in this area. People just
Well,
don't use it.
the problem is, it's
The pack parking lot is
not
empty.
And, you know, and so to add 10 spaces to that upper parking lot, the benefit, it drove the cost. I mean, if you were talking $30,000 to $50,000 a space, and it's
it doesn't
just,
make any sense. Yeah.
and it adds more stormwater, it adds all these other things that we have to be concerned about, so. You know, that we took that away, and we've been working with conservation on moving things around, and we can certainly look at the parking again and move and shift things. But as far as making up 16 spaces that they were parking on the left-hand side, we deal with this all the time. People just go where they wanna go. Short of putting no parking on all of the residents part, you know, in all the residential areas, then it becomes problematic for the homeowners that live there, because no parking means no parking
Well,
for
you have
everyone.
the signs now that have like the
Mhm.
resident sticker parking, but there are other people, again, like nobody polices it, so and then it gets upset for me, because then I have people visiting me and I can't even have a guest park outside of my house.
Yeah.
Thankfully, nobody tickets them because
Yeah.
nobody
So
comes by,
I
so
mean,
I'm lucky,
we'll-
but
We will certainly
that
take,
kind of stinks too.
we'll certainly take all this information back and,
Yeah.
and give it back to the Reading Police Department, and I'll bring it to Parking Transportation Task Force, which I also sit on that. We were hoping that the police were gonna be here just so they could hear some of these concerns.
They've heard it.
Never heard of
I
that.
know they have, but, you know, again, we're dealing with an area that's already there, right? We wanna rehab and make this facility nicer. We wanna take the opportunity to make right the deferred maintenance that happened.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, I think it's coming out great. I
You
just,
know, and like to that point, you know, we're looking at post-tension concrete basketball courts, so we don't have these problems with the cracking and the
Yes.
asphalt. There's not a lot of big difference between the cost and the materials. And it brings down the overall maintenance of these in the future. When we go to look at the Bancroft tennis courts in the future, we will be looking at post-tension concrete for those as well. And though that life of those courts are coming up soon. But to that point, you know, we're in a tight area. There's not a lot of space out there,
Well,
you know?
it's just, it's a matter of enforcement.
You know, and you know, so we generate the plan, we try to add some parking in there. We're hearing that you don't want parking across from you, so we'll take a look at that. You know, there's an educational portion of this too, and maybe there's wayfinding signs that we put up and say, hey, you're going to the basketball courts and you happen to drive here, park in this lot.
Mm.
You know, because you have a short walk.
So I guess the other thing that's of a existing concern, right, with the tennis courts is the parking that's adjacent to the tennis courts,
Mhm.
which is now the changing area for those that are playing sports.
Oh, yeah.
So if you live
They changed
in a
the
house on Bancroft Ave and have a picture window, you can certainly have a picture perfect view of someone in a jockstrap changing clothes. And his or her kids are getting the same exposure, so. Again,
So that's, again, to that point, that's why the pavilion was put in.
Yeah,
right?
thankfully we have that, maybe they'll start using that.
unfortunately,
So
the
some more
pavilion
signage.
Yeah, signs.
isn't being
You
used,
need
so
to
that
change
says,
your
what,
clothes.
it says the pavilion plan didn't
Again,
work,
it's,
right?
we try to create these areas to give places for people to do
Signage.
whatever they have to do. They need to change their behavior, and we need to do that through an educational process.
So
I don't know if that means, the van goes down there. Please don't change in front of the children. I don't know why that has to be explained to people, but,
So the other problem that we have is when all of these guests have to relieve themselves,
Yeah.
they're not walking to the pavilion, they're walking to the woods.
The guests coming off the tennis court or going to the
They're
woods?
coming out of every facility you have here. When you gotta go, you gotta go. And you're gonna use the
I
quicker,
think we just need better
faster.
signage.
That's what,
Yeah,
I
I
was-
the
the
signs
signs
are
I
are
don't
about
think
the
a lot of
signage.
people are aware of the new
Yeah,
pavilion.
it's just the sign.
I agree, it's not a far walk, I actually went down and timed myself today.
It's
on
nice.
Saturday
It's a
before.
nice
But
little walk.
but I do
1 minute
see,
and
And you have,
12 seconds, and I had to get over the snow.
Yeah, half that with the
when we're
snow.
playing tennis at night, we do see a lot of people driving all the way into the baseball field. They go at night. There's no light at the baseball, but there are people driving to the end and going to the baseball field, doing something and then coming back out. And doing what? I don't know. They're not going to the pavilion. There's that.
That part, I don't think that's just a Reading problem.
No,
Like
that
a lot
just
of
has-
places, but
that-
it's like, it's one of those things where it's gonna take someone getting caught doing what they're not supposed
Yes,
to be doing.
there's nothing we
be on
can
a
do about
news
that.
and-
but again,
Drunk kids.
it's consequences. Consequences come from enforcement.
Yep.
Enforcement costs money. And if we're gonna add more occupants here to play basketball, right? 4 teams of basketball is a considerable amount of loading to this facility. Those folks have got to know where to park, where to change, where to relieve
Yeah,
themselves.
sorry.
That's just a part of the deal, right?
Well, what-
And it can't be my neighborhood, right? I can't take much more in my neighborhood. So this is a precinct 7 problem.
People ask.
Precinct 7 has not had a great voice in this process. The neighborhoods have not had a great voice in this process. We're here tonight, we're having a listening ceremony because we don't know where the funding's coming from, we don't know what the plans are, we don't know what the schedule is. We don't know anything about the project in order to generate questions to have a conversation. That's where we are. I'm just learning tonight that you're planning to do construction this summer. So is that a problem? That's a problem. That's a problem.
Hi, can
Um,
I chime in really quick here?
Yeah,
go ahead,
Jenna.
So this was approved at town meeting by the town meeting voters, and it's been in design. So we had to work through some things internally with design, and now we're bringing it back to the neighbors. So this design really hasn't changed, other than that parking lot that Ryan spoke to quite eloquently about why it was eliminated, because it's just not cost effective for the town. But other than that, this is the same plan that has been approved
So-
since 2023. So
So Jenna, you're telling me there are plans, there are budgets, there are schedules? All of that's something that I can look at?
well, it was
Thank you,
approved
Jerry.
at town meeting, and yes, so that
Town
is.
meeting had none of that information either.
So to Jenna's point, these are the design plans. You're seeing the design plans. They're workable design plans. We're gonna be finalizing them based on comments we hear. We still have to go through permitting process with an NOI to conservation, so
Yeah, nothing here is final.
nothing as far, we may have to do some changes depending on what comes out of that. I think less parking and less impervious area is gonna be a benefit for conservation here. We do have a cost estimate that's come out of this schematic design, and there was a budget number that's given the town meeting. Town meeting doesn't get a cost estimate, they get a budget number. So really, not much, if you really look at the fundamental area, this has been broken down to redoing the basketball courts and the towel line into a playground area. And then adding some walkways. We're gonna change the parking up a little bit and look at some, and add some trees. And probably prune out some dead
And
ones.
signs.
Wayfinding signs we're hearing is a definite need that
Yeah.
Jim had brought that up actually a couple weeks ago. So we will extensively look at the wayfinding as a whole for the area that's part of the project.
How long, not to make another problem, but the lights and the basketball courts, how long will that stay on 10 when the tennis courts?
We're
are
not
on?
gonna really answer that question because that's more of a policy issue.
Yeah.
That has to go through the recreation committee.
And it's for the tennis courts, it's 10, so.
10 o'clock. So, but basketball is bouncing away at 10 o'clock at night probably is.
Oh, not so good.
Yeah, so Jim had mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, that'll go through the recreation committee.
I see.
This will go back in front of the recreation committee they'll probably weigh in on playground equipment, things like that, things that they have oversight on. And then also policy issues on what's the time frame for
So-
needs to be open.
The lights though, anyway, even if they're on or off, I mean, it's nice because the tennis court lights brighten up everything, so I mean, I don't think that, I mean, again, that would have to be enforced as far as like the,
Closes at dusk or.
yeah, I mean, but
Then why
and
would we
again,
need
it's.
lights?
I don't,
No,
I didn't mean
the
to say
lights are
dusk,
fine.
you see
Okay.
close to dusk.
Okay, I'm like, then why would we? need
No,
lights?
but I'm just saying, I don't
Okay.
know if, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
You're
no.
gonna bounce them, no
We
matter,
need
I mean,
no-
it's nice thought that they would stop at a certain time when the lights
We
go
need
out.
no
but
daylight
you don't know they're gonna
savings
hang
time.
out an
Let's
extra
get rid of
hour
that.
and still bounce back, which is fine, actually, I don't.
So let me ask another question. Right now, the kids that go to high school, that walk by my house every day, at the end of Hartshorn Street, at the intersection of Bancroft,
Yep.
walk directly across the street and walk to the high school.
Mhm.
Show me the path now for the kids to get to the high school from Hartshorn and Bancroft.
Yeah, that's gonna stay the same.
right?
Bottom.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this stays.
Yeah, that stays.
Now you have two routes.
So the kids are gonna walk
Where they do now, where Kara
to
walks
the
everybody.
north and then around the tots lot and around the basketball
No,
court?
no,
don't
this
wanna-
existing one is gonna stay, correct?
That's what I'm asking.
I think it's staying.
Which
The
existing one?
existing
The one
one,
that's right there now.
The one
So-
that goes from right in front of the tennis courts, I
From
mean, the,
Hartshorn Street, right?
tot lot, yep, right there. That goes all the way up to the high
Yes.
school parking lot.
both have.
Yeah.
That goes to this.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then it goes around the tennis courts.
So it's
and
like
they
the
get-
same, it's just a little different.
It's a little different. There are what we call
Desire lines. You're not-
desire
you're not
lines that are
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
happen. They happen everywhere,
But we're also.
Oh, no, I don't care, I
keeping
just
Away
get-
from.
but
Buffer
we're being,
So
again,
that's a replacement for that walkway.
again,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be
That's
very-
fine. I didn't know when I couldn't see it.
so what's gonna happen is you're gonna walk in a straight line. Everyone walks in a straight line and
Yeah.
it is what it is. We have to be cognizant of the fact that we are in the buffer zone and we do have to steward the area. So
Yeah.
to remove as much of that we can out and away from that area, the better. We don't want them trampling through a nice natural area. So, and that's what we're gonna be looking for in that, a buffer, a nice natural
Really
buffer.
nice.
So again, it's a park. We want people to meander around. Whether, kids are gonna do what they want. That's what they do.
So we're gonna be able to maintain that, right? So we can plow it in the winter time so kids can walk that path. I mean, it's barely passable now, but we can work on that, right?
Again, yeah, I mean, that's gonna be an operational policy thing that I can't speak to and Jim can't at this meeting, but we could talk to facilities and or DPW about what and how it will be maintained.
And is there anything happening to the Little League field? It was unclear to me whether there was any activity at the Little League.
Under this project at this time, no. There
Just
will be some paving
Paving
and
improvements.
cleaning up the
for
area, so
strictly
it
for
blends into the
accessibility.
project and this becomes more of a master plan area.
So new buildings sprout in this park without any expectation.
They sure do.
From a long-term plan to, they just sprout.
And trailers, bro, too.
We don't know where they come from. They just arrive and they don't go away. And
Yeah, we're working on that and trying to get more of a uniformity when it does come up.
so I guess here's my comment. How are you going to involve the neighbors? How are you going to involve the neighborhoods? How are you going to involve precinct 7?
As far as
Because
new,
right now, we have pretty much been ignored on this process. We've been taking as a general overview of the town wants. But no consideration has been given to the neighbors, the neighborhoods, and precinct 7.
Right. for the.
So we need to have a voice in this process, and we have not had a voice in this process. We deserve a voice in this process. And I know
agree,
you can say we had a town meeting.
No, I agree, Dave. I mean, I think during the summers, I think I'm consistently pulling over and having 10, 15-minute conversations.
I know.
And during these times, if your voices are not being heard, if you feel it again, please let me know. And I will
Yeah,
continue
I'm just telling
to
you.
try to do more.
Yeah,
So we have to go.
Thank you.
Thank you
I have to
guys.
get my documentation.
Thank you for the input. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then you say that too, as far as like, to what extent? So like, we did put in a new shed behind turf 2 field. There's a nice Reed's Ferry shed that field hockey uses. It's like a 16x10. We put that in there.
Yeah,
So if a shed drops over there, should I
It's
be
not in the-
notifying
not in the
precinct 7? I
master-
just don't know where.
It's
You
not
just
in
mean
the
the
master,
master
it's
plan.
not in the master
Gotcha.
plan, it just shows up, so we
Like
either,
Little League had.
we either
one, so-
stick with the master plan,
Yep.
100%.
or we
That's,
don't stick with the master.
that's the plan, right? And
So-
so,
If we're gonna be,
and I,
discretionary about how we do this, then why have a plan at all?
You know,
Just do what we
and
want.
I'm glad you agree with that because, I'll go back to one of the original, is this it right here, Steve?
Until tonight, I didn't know that we weren't going to build the parking up but Rise parking lot.
We had taken that
I
out.
understand why, and you and I had that conversation, it didn't
We-
make any
It
sense.
didn't, but we had recently taken that out within the last couple of weeks. so.
And I wouldn't know that, so
I told you that when you came down the other day.
I know,
I clearly told you that 3 weeks ago.
but I mean, I can't tell.
I get it.
I don't have.
But then
plans.
others, like you came in and others may not know.
Yeah.
this. So
I just don't
understand.
have, I don't have plans.
So to the master plan point, we 100% agree with you, right? Master plan, it's an important thing for us, not just for these areas, but for everything that we do. And I think we've consistently shown now since the master plan, we're moving towards these improvements in a very consistent way. Part of that is Jim's done a great job of getting rid of a lot of sheds too everywhere. And we've had containers just drop off.
The
That
giant steel
was actually very problematic to get rid of, to be honest with you. And we've removed those. So
Yeah, so no, we're very appreciative of the help.
it's a,
It's a work in progress.
yeah, and
Not
we really,
perfect. by any
we're
means.
really, it's gonna be a long haul to get this to where we want it to be,
we
right?
just-
And
we
everyone
just-
wants it to be, it's your backyard.
Yeah,
I
it's
get
our
it. I
backyard
understand.
and we want to have a voice, and I think that's a good thing, right?
Mhm.
That's a positive thing, because reality is, we're the ones that walk this park every day. We're the ones that see deficiencies and try to bring them forward so that
No, it's-
we don't have problems. It's our kids that walk on the new pathway, right? So
So
we're just
just-
trying to,
Yep, and again, we appreciate that. You can actually see one of the older renditions of this master plan was the 8 pickleball courts.
yeah, God.
We've heard, but to the point of not hearing or being involved, we've heard all these things. We've made a lot of these changes to this area. I think, I personally think I like the project that we're at now. I think it fits the area. I think it's nicer than really kind of what we were trying to jam in there with a lot of changes.
Yeah, no, it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress,
We
but
just want to have a voice and not be ignored, and when we see problems, we want to see solutions as opposed to a police department that says, oh, those signs are discretionary, you don't have to really stop there.
Yeah,
If you feel like it, we'll enforce it, but.
And so,
maybe not.
to speak to some of the things that we've heard tonight and over the past, we're aware of the area of Birch Meadow, the flooding issue. We were aware of it when it was happening, so we've worked with Activitas and our surveyors, and we've identified a way of fixing that issue. So it's just a matter of time of getting out there to do it. We saw the issue with the little ice dam. We had ice dams everywhere, so maybe some
Yeah,
heating cables or something like that might help.
Well, the
We had
most-
some other little minor issues with the bathroom area, doors and things like that. that we
Like I say,
worked through.
we all agree, the most important thing is that we continue to have conversation. And we celebrate that because that's how we all work together better.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to do. We all want to be helpful, not.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a problem, we want to be the solution.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing tonight is more signage,
signage.
more signage.
Let's
You know,
conject-
More enforcement, more consequence.
I have that written down too, and I will pass that along to the Reading Police and I agree. you know, more of a presence out there might help for a bit, but as soon as they leave,
Well,
they
there's-
have it.
So
So,
let's just, for the sake of it, let's have a conversation about that. So there are other, if the police department don't have the funding and the manpower in order to do that, we can start to assess fees. For those that are using the park, to the guys that are playing tennis, I hear you. Guys that are playing little league, baseball. We can assign a fee to that. We can pay for that to happen. If they don't want to do it, there's a consequence, there's a cost. Either the
There-
taxpayer
we can-
bears the cost or the user pays the cost.
We can explore that. I'd hate to pass another fee on to our users, to be
Yeah,
honest with
we-
you, but there's ways that maybe we can potentially build up some funds. We do pay facilities. to
Yeah,
do some
no, I
certain
know.
things.
But
I'm not gonna say we're gonna just pull it out of the recreation budget and give
Yeah,
$5 grand extra, but I mean, there are ways around it, and it's obviously a big issue, and I think Ryan and I are gonna take that away to the police department.
yeah, I
Conversation,
mean,
Hopefully get answers.
Well, I hope you have better luck than I did.
fees, charging. They're one of the last things that we wanna use as a measure, you know, because you end up you'll end up like, it's just the users of that area will end up getting charged, right? So whether that's the tennis players or whomever is playing there, you know,
Well, if the
it's
cost
either,
either,
it's either you charge to use the courts as a, you know, some means of charging, or there's kiosks out there. We're not talking about parking kiosks, because that's.
oh, you use a parking meter from downtown.
Courts are
So
very-
anyway,
But again, I don't feel like
What's that?
the tennis courts are very, very popular. But
They
if you
are.
levy fees, that's gonna.
yeah, I don't feel, again, it's not, that's not my jurisdiction. I
Do you
don't,
think,
I
the
don't
tennis
manage
courts are
users.
out of town? Is that an out of town problem or an in town problem?
I would say that, I mean, out of towns will use them as well,
Yeah.
but I mean, I haven't had any issues with people saying,
I
I can't
just-
get on these courts, it's too full. I haven't had any issues, I mean, when we
Yeah.
got pickleball, yeah, certainly there was an issue, but it was
Well,
a
there- I have no
supply and
idea.
demand.
so some upcoming things on that area. I mean, the tennis courts will be resurfaced. When we say resurfaced, they'll get some leveling, crack treatment leveling course. And just new painting. That'll happen in August
End of
during
August.
the only time we have available on those courses to do painting. So that's coming up. Then we also have this project hopefully tentatively starting in the July timeframe,
7th, I think.
right? Other things that to look for in the future for master plan things. Potentially, I'm not saying this has happened in the near future, potentially lighting not Castine Field,
Just the lighted, the current lit fields, the multi-purpose field that has the street field.
there's not many things
Imagination.
left to pick off the master plan, believe it or not.
Castine, we're not
Well, when
touching.
Morton Field gets lights, there'll be a big conversation.
I'm not sure that,
That'll be a big
I'm
conversation.
not-
I agree with
We were not gonna talk about
I'm
that.
I just
get through this and then we'll worry about it.
we have some people in the room, so I just wanna throw it out there that those are some things that are potentially on the master plan that may come up, so you might wanna just keep your ears open, you know, but the lights are gonna be a big deal,
They are.
you know, that's why they're pushed off.
Well, we're all trying to do the right thing. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
I-
We're all
I
trying to do
think-
the right thing.
I appreciate everyone showing up. I think we got some really great feedback. The parking feedback was great. We'll get some feedback for the police that we can share. Wayfinding signs, that was on our list, but we'll definitely make sure that we look at everything. Any other questions or
Is there a
concerns?
fence around the basketball courts?
There will be a fence,
Partial.
there will be partial fence, I think you can kind of see it in the design. It
More
is
so behind.
somewhat open, yeah, behind to keep the balls from going into conservation area, but there is an open concept where you can kind of see
Did I go too far again?
yeah, right there, those dark lines, you can see them on the top
Is
half.
this one's pulled out, right?
I think we dropped that a
We
little.
dropped the middle of the divider, correct?
So let me just do this. So you have it, Ryan, you've seen it.
Mhm,
This,
mhm.
my email of the 17th, so I'm submitting it as part of the public record for this project. My concerns, my questions about this project. And you can respond to them as long as they become a public response. And we're all trying to
Including
figure.
things that were answered tonight.
Well, I would answer them all. We're just, all of us that live there are trying to figure out how to continue to live there and have our properties and our, our peace and quiet,
So-
not.
And I did forward over
We
the
shared that
concerns
immediately
with
with our
the
consultant.
police department as well. You had
Yeah.
the enforcement stuff. I've already sent that over to
Yep, thanks.
Scouting as well.
Yeah, we're like-
We'll follow up again.
We're all trying to communicate, we're all trying to make this workable plan, and make it better.
So, yep, just to reiterate, our goal is construction in July. That's our
Yeah, I
goal.
was surprised at that.
That was always on the plan, right? As far as the funding that was secured.
I mean, it was actually supposed to be this past fall. So we slowed it down to make sure that we looked at everything.
So you're gonna put plans up on the town site so we can
Yes.
see them? And budgets and
Yes.
yada yada, right?
Yes.
So we can see all that information. It's hard to have a meeting without
I
information.
get it. We were trying to pull it all together. I get it.
Yeah, we generally, it has to get to a point where we have a certain percentage done. This is close. We'll put it up now. Working documents, we don't produce this public document, but this here is, I would say 75%. And again, please be mindful that you're gonna get notices for the NOI that will come up.
You'll theoretically have 3 more opportunities.
And then
Public meetings.
CPDC will also be hearing this for minor site plan review. So it'll go from them, and then Recreation Committee probably have it on their agenda for a while.
So who's gonna be the point for this project?
So the 2 points from the town is myself from engineering, Ryan Percival, and Jim Sullivan, Recreation.
So who's the bottom line? Which one do you guys wanna be the? We can't divide and conquer, you gotta.
I
give me
will,
one.
all through so we have a core group for the design. Once construction kicks off, I will be the official project
So you're
manager.
gonna be the design guy, you're gonna be the.
Well, we're
construction.
both, but
Well-
I am the point person for the construction and all that, but Jim's also working with me too, so we got.
I'll be the updater.
Communications director.
Communications
I'll be there,
director.
maybe. Well,
Maybe this time I won't forget the lemonade.
So Ryan, Chuck,
Amend the
so
subject line, no
I
lemonade.
had a
One question, Chuck has a question.
butter notification, so this is kind of like an odd lot,
Okay.
Isn't it? I mean, it's.
It is, we've talked about these odd ones before.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, if, conservation would only ask for 300 feet from the boundaries.
From the limit of work,
Yeah, well, no, from the
Parcel.
from the
the
parcel.
boundary, so I don't know if this is cut up into different parcels, I thought I saw a plan where they combined parcels.
Okay, so,
But my question actually is,
but
I'm not sure it's gonna get into Dave's neighborhood, so when you say something like you'll be notified, I'm wondering if you're gonna go above and beyond notification
I actually
for
already
others.
saw. I think I already made a label for you.
With this meeting.
That was my question, are you gonna get into Dave's neighborhood, you're gonna get in
Well,
all the way up Longwood?
we will look at the abutters, how they hit, so we make sure we grab those when required to. And then we'll add additional ones as we feel, just to make sure.
I went 600 on this one.
Yeah.
Be safe.
And we might do that.
600.
We might do that. And to answer your question, there are 3 parcels there. They were not combined in the last town meeting. So there's 3 different
There's still
ownership.
three,
There's
okay.
2 different ownerships.
They're pretty tight within that area, so.
Yeah, it's that rectangle. So if we take that rectangle as the parcel and then we do that.
Yeah.
I think we submitted abutters on all 3 parcels, actually. That was approved by, yeah.
Hey, Ryan and Jim, there's a question in the chat. So are the new parking spaces officially being reduced to only a couple handicap spots? I replied that it doesn't appear that a final decision has been made yet, and that staff is probably gonna take it back to parking, take the comments on parking and traffic back to the police, but do you have any comments on that?
The
additional?
comment, yeah, I mean, we're not gonna make a final decision here at the meeting. We'll take the information back, we'll take a look at it and see. I feel as though reducing down to handicap accessible parking is probably where we'll end up, but we'll take a look at it and also go to Parking Transportation Task Force to make sure we're in compliance with them.
Thanks.
So we're not gonna make no one's gonna make a decision on the fly here. It's just, we don't do that.
So again, we that live there want to have a voice in that process, in that conclusion, before we go to bid.
Yep, I think we heard it tonight.
Yep.
Loud
Just to
and
make
clear.
sure, just want to make sure everybody's listening.
Yeah,
You know,
so this is recorded too, and.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, no, this is good.
I just lost power to my laptop, so.
Good timing. Any other questions? No? Jenna, anything online?
Nope.
Perfect.
All right, well, thank you for
Please
coming.
send any questions, comments, or anything to myself or Jim.
And we'll work on getting up information online as far as what has been shared and what we have from. this
I mean, we
town
have,
meeting.
we have ability on the engineering website to put up some construction stuff that we had talked about where
Where do you
people
stop?
more likely gonna go look, and that's really, you know, do we go to recreation or do we send it, not my area? For construction, generally people will come to engineering or DPW to look for construction, but for design,
I'd suggest everything go to recreation, because that's where it is until it goes to construction.
yeah, and so we'll get that information up in the meantime. If anyone wants to see anything and it's not posted, please send your email, we'll send everything out, as you know, everything that we can. But this will get posted as soon as we can. We've got some great feedback, so I appreciate it.
All right, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jenna, for running it. and
Thank you,
keeping
Jenna.
What would be the trigger?
Now I gotta figure out how to leave.
Jackie